This past Sunday, I shared a message entitled How to Solve America's Race Problem. And one of the verses that we shared during the course of that message was from Revelation chapter 7, verse 9, which describes a scene in which there were a multitude of peoples dressed in white robes, so they all look the same, from every nation, tribe, people, and language. Now, looking up those Greek words, there's no mention of race there. There's references to different cultural or social settings, but there's no mention of race. And the argument's been made that race is really not a biblical concept. In fact, the only concept of race in the Bible is Adam's race, or the human race. The human race that has fallen into sin. So from a biblical perspective, race is never a factor. It's not an issue. It's not a biblical concept. It's a societal concept. It's a construction of society. It's a worldly construction. And of course, the Bible tells us who's in control of the world, Satan. So it's a construction of the enemy for ulterior motives, to cause division and dissension. And you look at the media today, you look at politicians, I get the sneaky suspicion, not behind everything, but behind a lot, there are ulterior motives of control or power or money. I saw something recently. I did not look into this in any detail to confirm the facts, but I saw that a majority of the money that is donated to Black Lives Matter goes to white politicians who are pulling the strings behind the scenes. Now, I thought that was an interesting concept. Again, I don't know the factual nature of it, but kind of makes me want to dig back into it and see what the truth is. So, I suspect that Satan is doing his very best to destroy America, and one of the ways in which he is doing that is causing division among those of different skin color. Of course, as I have experienced, and probably many of you, once we enter the family of God through Christ, we all consider ourselves brothers and sisters. In fact, that's the terminology that's used in the Bible. We don't really see color because we're operating according to the Spirit. We're operating according to the heart. Now, there was a New York Times survey that I have in front of me that came out, and they were asking 58 questions to 101 black teenagers. They said how frequently, on a weekly basis, experiences such behavior over a 2-week period. So the researchers were saying of the 58 different types of racism, what have you experienced over 2 weeks? 101 black teenagers. Now, I'm reading through this, okay? You can't see it. I'm reading through this. I have literally experienced all 58 of these issues. Now, number one, they can all be boiled down to about 12 major problems. Like, for example, somebody makes a joke about you. Another one is teasing, or you feel like you've been treated poorly. Now, another issue with this is of the 58, it can be narrowed down to about 10 or 12 issues. So they're compounding the problem because they're spinning it in different ways when it's really one issue, and they're putting the question down like 6 different times. The second issue is that I would argue that many of these things are subjective. It just depends on how you feel. It's not factual. It's just based on feelings. So we've got another issue there. Third issue is that these are common to human nature. They're not just common to race. They're just common to human nature. And again, I would say just from a human nature perspective, and as a Christian, I have experienced all 58 of these things. So have I experienced racism? I would say no. Just human nature. That's what the human heart does. And not all of these things. Think about sports, military, when your peers tell a joke, okay? So what? The people in my unit used to slip pornography into my Bible when I was reading the Bible. I just laughed at it and just took it out, threw it away, and kept going. That's what they're going to do. I didn't take it in a personal way. It's not based on skin color. So I've got an issue with this because I believe the New York Times and other media outlets are intentionally trying to cause division. One of the best ways to eliminate racism is to stop talking about it. Instead of saying a white police officer shot and killed a black man, just a police officer shot and killed a man. I mean, you add those adjectives and it changes the whole story. Or you take those out and it can change the whole story. Now, I'm not saying that in some cases, as I mentioned on Sunday, at the very end, the Charleston shooting, Charleston, South Carolina, I think that was a proven case where an individual was motivated by a hatred, a white individual was motivated by a hatred for black people. Proven. So there are some genuine cases in which injustice takes place based on skin color. But I was watching Candace Owens, black, conservative, which are few and far between. She gets heat from both sides. And she was saying, she asked the question, can you insult a black person without being called a racist? And then she said, of course not. You insult a black person, you're going to be called a racist every time. Her point was, everything and anything you do is going to be charged with racism. And so she was attacking this issue. Another question she brought up, would you, or people bring up to kind of point out the fact that racism exists, would you rather be black or white in America? Now, I know what answer they're looking for. I'd rather be white because I'm privileged. But honestly, I would rather be black. And I can think of many, many reasons why. For example, if I was trying to get into Harvard, I'd rather be black. Just because the NBA has like 75% of its players are black doesn't mean they're racist. I don't say, oh, you guys are racist. Why are you not hiring more? Why are you not, hiring more white people? I just, like, as an athlete my whole life, if you're the best, you play. It's just that simple. I mean, if I was the coach of a team, I want to bring on board the best athletes. And so when it comes to athletics, I'd rather be black. I think by and large, black athletes have some great physical features over and above white athletes. So it depends, again, on your perspective. I think in many respects, black Americans have more opportunities and more benefits than whites. And I'm sure black Americans would make the argument on the flip side. So I think it balances out. I mean, I honestly do. I was watching a clip by Morgan Freeman. He was specifically asked by a black news anchor, do you believe racism in this country? He said, absolutely not. He said, look, I'm proof. I'm a millionaire. You're proof. It comes down to hard work. Just work hard. You can achieve the American dream. Stop making excuses. Take personal responsibility. And you can achieve whatever you want. It's up to you. It's your responsibility. Now, one more question. Would you rather get pulled over by the police as a black man or as a white man? And I would say to that, I don't care. Make me black. Put me in that situation 1,000 times, and 1,000 times it will go positive for me. I'll tell you why. 4 reasons why. Again, I mean, I can solve this whole issue 99.9% even without Jesus, which I believe that Jesus is the ultimate solution to change hearts, and this is a heart issue. It's a spiritual warfare issue between Satan and Jesus. Underlying all of this, he's trying to cause division, 2 kingdoms at war. And it's a heart issue because we're dealing with fallen human nature. Put those aside just for a moment, and I'll just share with you 4 things that will eliminate 99% of the problem facing America regarding this claim of racism in the midst of police interaction. 4 things. Ready? Number 1, don't break the law. I don't break the law. So I would eliminate in that very quality, I would eliminate 98% of all interaction with the police. Do not break the law. It's that simple. Criminals are going to interact with the police. Non-criminals, they're not really going to have interaction with the police. Second of all, don't get an attitude. I think, and this is true, and I've talked to a lot of black friends, I've listened to a lot of black authors, I think there is a high level of pride in the black community. Not everyone, of course, but there's a high level of pride. There's kind of one of my black friends described as a chip on your shoulder. So instead of humility, which the Bible, which God honors, there's pride. Instead of being, if I get pulled over, I'd be thankful, I would be appreciative, I'd be understanding. I'd say, sir, I completely understand someone dressed like me was reported to have committed a crime right down the street. You see me, you come up, you need to hold me, you need to make sure you can identify me, make sure my story checks out, and I've got to sit here on the curb with police, maybe even handcuffed or something, until I'm searched and until my story checks out. I get it. I understand. I'm understanding. I'm appreciative. I'm thankful in the midst. I don't get an attitude. I don't fight back. I don't do any of those things. Third, I have the maturity to respect authority and treat everyone with love. And remember, this past Sunday, Luke chapter 6, verse 31. Do to others as you would have them do to you. Treat others as you want to be treated. It's that simple. If you just obey the Bible, you don't commit crimes, you don't break the law, you walk in a spirit of humility and not pride, which of course is scriptural, and you treat others as you would want to be treated. You show respect for authority. And that's talked about in multiple different places in the Bible, in the scriptures. Treat everyone with love. And finally, number 4, don't dress like a criminal. It's that simple. If I was overseas and I was an Iraqi and I knew that the last 100 suicide bombers that the American military had to put up with or had to eliminate or was confronted with, they all dressed the same way. If I was an Iraqi civil, I wouldn't dress like that. It's just common sense. I wouldn't dress like that because I don't want to be mistaken by the American military for being another suicide bomber. I wouldn't do that. It's just pure wisdom. So when we don't know somebody, every single human being makes judgments based on the exterior. Because we're protected by nature. We're assessing the risk of any situation we find ourselves in. And when we don't know somebody personally, we have to assess risk based upon the exterior, based upon dress. That's what everybody does. People are judging me. I am judging other people. Once you get to know them, that assessment can change. But when you don't know somebody, you assess them based on exterior. All right. So I would think it would be absolutely foolish for me to wear a KKK mask, fly a Confederate flag off the back of my pickup truck and have, dress like a skinhead and drive up in a all black neighborhood and expect them to treat me like I want to be treated. But what am I portraying? What am I portraying to them? What based on their past experience, based on everything we know why would I put myself in a compromising situation by trying to identify with a group that's historically committing crime? It's not wise. So don't dress like a gangster. Don't dress like a criminal. Dress respectful. Dress appropriately. I have a minivan, a purple minivan, or what you're driving can speak a lot, can speak tremendous volumes. So I think you do these 4 things. Really, the issue is Satan is always tempting us to point the finger at someone else and to put the blame on someone else. Rather than take personal responsibility, we want to blame others for our problems. So we need to take personal responsibility. There's a lot of wise things that we can do. And ultimately, this SAS Sunday was looking at 7, 8 different scriptures and seeing the contrast between the way that Jesus would walk and the way that the world walks, or the way that Satan walks. And to examine ourselves to see if our attitude, our words, our behaviors are in line with the way of Christ, above and beyond, or in comparison to the way of Satan. Hope this is helpful. Trying to bring up some points that I'm kind of processing through. So want to encourage you to keep doing your research and study. And of course, everybody has an opinion. So I just kind of humbly share these things for your consideration.